What if I told you that one of the biggest reasons you are struggling to build wealth is because you are trying too hard to look wealthy? The expensive car, the designer clothes, the latest phone, the expensive apartment, the vacations, the restaurants, the constant upgrades, and the social media posts that quietly tell everyone, I can afford this. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Some of the people who look the richest are financially struggling behind the scenes, and some of the people who look completely ordinary are quietly building millions. That's because there is a huge difference between looking rich and being wealthy. Looking rich requires money to be spent. Being wealthy requires money to be retained. And those two strategies are often fighting against each other. Imagine two people. Let's call them Marcus and Daniel. They both earn $80,000 a year. Marcus drives a brand new luxury SUV. He lives in an expensive apartment. He wears designer clothes. He upgrades his phone every year. His Instagram makes his life look incredible. Daniel drives a 7-year-old Toyota. He lives in a modest apartment. He wears simple clothes. His phone is 3 years old. And if you looked at their social media accounts, you might assume Marcus is wealthy. But then something unexpected happens. Both men lose their jobs. Marcus has less than $3,000 in savings. Daniel has more than $60,000 invested and another 6 months of expenses sitting in cash. Suddenly, who looks rich? And who actually has wealth? That's the lesson we're exploring today. Because if your financial strategy is based on looking successful, you may be spending the very money you need to become successful. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why sometimes looking poor can be one of the smartest financial decisions you make. Before we begin, if you're serious about building wealth instead of just looking wealthy, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we share practical money lessons, investing strategies, and wealth psychology that help ordinary people build extraordinary financial futures. Now, let's begin. The wealthy person you don't notice. There's a strange thing about real wealth. You often can't see it. You can see someone's car, you can see their house, you can see their clothes, you can see their vacations, but you can't see their brokerage account. You can't see their retirement savings. You can't see their emergency fund. You can't see the debt they don't have. You can't see the investments quietly compounding in the background. And you definitely can't see the financial freedom they are building. This creates a problem. We naturally judge financial success by visible things. Someone buys a $90,000 car. We think, they must be doing well. Someone moves into a $4,000 a month apartment. We think, they must have money. Someone wears a $3,000 watch. We think, they must be successful. But what we're actually seeing is consumption, not wealth. And that distinction is incredibly important. Because wealth is largely invisible. Looking rich costs money. Let's say you earn $60,000 a year. Your take-home income might be somewhere around $4,000 a month, depending on your taxes and deductions. Now imagine you decide you want to look successful. You finance a $55,000 car. Your monthly car payment is $900. Insurance costs another $200. Fuel and maintenance add another $250. Suddenly, the car is costing approximately $1,350 every month. That's $16,200 a year. And that's before you've bought anything else. Now imagine instead that you drive a reliable used car that costs you $500 a month in total. You've created an $850 monthly difference. That's $10,200 every year. Over 5 years, that's potentially more than $50,000 in cash flow that could have gone somewhere else. Savings, investments, debt repayment, a business, a home, retirement, emergency savings. The difference isn't that one person enjoys cars and another doesn't. The difference is understanding opportunity cost. Every dollar spent trying to look wealthy is a dollar that cannot simultaneously be used to build wealth. The status trap. Here's where things get dangerous. You buy something expensive. People notice. They compliment you. You feel good. So you buy something else. People notice again. And your brain starts associating expensive things with success. Then your lifestyle becomes your identity. You no longer ask, "Can I afford this?" You ask, "What will people think if I don't have this?" That's a completely different financial question. And it's a dangerous one. Because now you're no longer spending money based on your needs. You're spending based on an audience. Maybe it's your coworkers, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your followers, or even strangers on the internet. And here's the problem. Those people are not paying your bills. They don't care whether your credit card balance is growing. They don't care whether you have enough retirement savings. They don't care whether you can survive 6 months without income. They see the car. They don't see the payment. They see the vacation. They don't see the credit card bill. They see the designer bag. They don't see your empty savings account. And this is why trying to look rich can become financially expensive. The invisible rich person. Let's go back to Daniel. Remember? The guy with the old Toyota. People at work occasionally joked about his car. One coworker once asked, "Don't you think it's time to upgrade?" Daniel laughed. Maybe someday. But he didn't feel embarrassed. Because Daniel knew something his coworkers didn't. His car was paid off. His housing costs were reasonable. He had no expensive consumer debt. He invested automatically every month. He maintained an emergency fund. And he had a long-term financial plan. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was trying to buy something much more valuable, freedom. And freedom doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes freedom looks like driving an old car, wearing the same jacket for 5 years, cooking at home, living below your means, using a phone until it stops working, taking a modest vacation, saying no to expensive invitations, and quietly watching your savings grow. Why looking poor can protect your money. Here's the psychological advantage. When people think you're wealthy, expectations can follow. You become the person who always pays, the person who always travels, the person who always has the newest things, the person everyone expects to maintain a certain lifestyle. But when you don't build that identity, you have more freedom. You can say, "No, that's outside my budget," without feeling like you're disappointing anyone. You can choose a cheaper restaurant. You can skip the expensive vacation. You can keep the old car. You can wear affordable clothes. And you don't have to explain yourself. Because your lifestyle isn't built around proving anything. This is one of the most underrated financial advantages of living modestly. You don't have to maintain an image. And when you don't have an image to maintain, you can make decisions based on what is actually good for you. Your neighbor may be wealthier than you think. Think about your neighborhood. There is probably someone driving an old car. They don't dress extravagantly. They don't post expensive vacations. They don't constantly talk about money. You might assume they're struggling. But what if they're not? What if that person has $100,000 invested, a paid-off house, no consumer debt, a large emergency fund, a fully funded retirement account? You wouldn't know. Because wealth doesn't announce itself. And that's the point. The person with the loudest display of wealth isn't necessarily the wealthiest person in the room. They may simply be the person most willing to spend money to look wealthy. The $1,000 outfit versus the $1,000 investment. Let's make this practical. Suppose you have an extra $1,000. You have two options. Option 1. Buy an expensive outfit. People notice. You feel good. You take pictures. Maybe you get compliments. But eventually the excitement disappears. Option 2. Invest that $1,000. Nobody sees it. Nobody compliments you. Nobody knows you did it. But that money has a chance to grow. And if you continue doing that repeatedly, the invisible money can eventually become very visible financial freedom. That's the paradox. The things that make you look rich often lose value. The things that make you wealthy often look boring. A savings account is boring. An investment account is boring. A retirement contribution is boring. Paying off debt is boring. But boring financial decisions can produce extraordinary results. The power of delayed gratification. One of the strongest financial skills you can develop is the ability to say, I could buy it, but I don't need to buy it yet. That's delayed gratification. And it changes everything. You see a new phone. You wait. You see a new car. You wait. You want to upgrade your apartment. You wait. You want the designer shoes. You wait. Not because you can't afford them, but because you understand that being able to afford something doesn't mean buying it is the best use of your money. That's a critical distinction. Your income gives you purchasing power. Your discipline gives you financial power. Why raises can keep you broke. Here's another trap. You get a raise. Let's say your income increases by $10,000. You should be financially better off. But then you upgrade your apartment. You get a nicer car. You eat at more expensive restaurants. You travel more. You upgrade your wardrobe. You subscribe to more services. And suddenly, your expenses increased by almost exactly the amount of your raise. You earned more. But you're not wealthier. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it can happen at almost any income level. Someone making $40,000 can experience it. Because the problem isn't necessarily income. It's the habit of turning every increase in income into an increase in lifestyle. The 50% rule. Here's a strategy you can use when your income increases. You don't have to save every extra dollar. Instead, consider keeping a significant portion of every raise or income increase away from your lifestyle. For example, you receive a $500 monthly raise. Instead of spending all $500, perhaps $250 goes toward your financial goals. The other $250 can improve your lifestyle. You get both progress and enjoyment. The goal isn't to live miserably. The goal is to make sure your lifestyle doesn't grow as quickly as your income. Because that's how the gap between income and expenses gets wider. And that gap is where wealth is built. Stop trying to impress people. Here's something nobody likes to admit. A lot of spending is social. You don't actually want the expensive restaurant. You want to belong. You don't actually need the designer clothes. You want recognition. You don't actually need the luxury car. You want people to know you succeeded. And there is nothing inherently wrong with wanting nice things. The problem begins when your financial decisions are controlled by other people's opinions. Because here's the truth. People notice you for a few minutes. Then they go back to thinking about themselves. The person who complimented your expensive watch probably forgot about it 10 minutes later. But you may still be making payments 6 months later. That's a terrible trade. You're exchanging long-term financial resources for short-term attention. Social media makes this worse. Now let's talk about Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. You see someone traveling, a luxury hotel, a designer outfit, a beautiful car, a massive house, and your brain starts comparing. But you're comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel. You don't know how much debt they have, who paid for the vacation, whether the car is leased, whether the house is heavily mortgaged, whether the lifestyle is sustainable, or whether the person is actually financially secure. You're seeing the result, not the balance sheet. And if you start copying someone else's lifestyle without knowing their finances, you can accidentally copy their financial problems too. The quiet wealth strategy. So what does the opposite strategy look like? It's simple. Earn. Spend intentionally. Save aggressively when possible. Invest consistently. Avoid unnecessary debt. Keep fixed expenses manageable. And let your wealth grow quietly. You don't need everyone to know you're doing well. In fact, sometimes it's better if they don't. Because the less pressure you feel to maintain an expensive image, the easier it becomes to make financially rational decisions. This is what I call quiet wealth. Not hiding your success, not pretending you're poor, just refusing to make your lifestyle responsible for proving your success. You don't have to look poor forever now. There's an important distinction. I'm not telling you, never buy nice things, never enjoy your money, never travel, never upgrade your car, never buy quality clothes. That's not the point. Money is meant to support your life. The problem is when appearance comes before financial foundation. Build the foundation first. Emergency fund, manageable debt, retirement savings, investments, reasonable housing costs. Then enjoy the money you can genuinely afford to spend. There's nothing wrong with luxury when luxury doesn't control your finances. The problem isn't having expensive things. The problem is needing expensive things to feel successful. The 3 questions. From now on, before making a major purchase, ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1. Would I still want this if nobody could see it? This exposes status spending. If nobody knew you owned it, would you still want it? If yes, maybe it's genuinely valuable to you. If no, think twice. Question 2. Will this purchase make me wealthier, poorer, or financially neutral? A purchase doesn't have to make you richer, but you should understand what it does. A $40,000 car is not automatically a bad purchase, but if it prevents you from saving for retirement, building an emergency fund, or paying off debt, then the opportunity cost matters. Question 3. What future goal am I giving up for this? This is the most powerful question, because every dollar has an alternative. That $5,000 vacation could be $5,000 spent, or $5,000 invested, or $5,000 toward debt, or $5,000 toward a home, or $5,000 toward financial security. The decision isn't about whether the vacation is good or bad. It's about whether it's worth what you're giving up. The $30,000 salary example. Let's bring this back to the kind of audience we talk to here at EgoMoney. Imagine someone earning $30,000 a year. They receive a modest raise. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle immediately, they keep most of their existing habits. They continue driving their reliable car. They keep their reasonable apartment. They cook more meals at home. They avoid unnecessary subscriptions. And they redirect the extra money towards savings. Over time, their emergency fund grows. Then their investments grow. Then their retirement savings grow. Then their financial options grow. Nothing about their appearance changed dramatically, but their financial position did. That's the important part. You don't have to look successful while you're becoming successful. You can look ordinary while building an extraordinary financial future. The people who don't need to prove it, think about someone who has $2 million invested. They don't necessarily need a $150,000 car. They don't need to prove anything. They can buy it if they genuinely want it. But they don't need it for validation. That's the difference. When you have financial security, you can choose. When you don't have financial security but spend money trying to appear successful, your lifestyle starts choosing for you. And that is why financial freedom is so powerful. It gives you options. The most expensive thing you can buy isn't necessarily a house, or a car, or a watch. Sometimes the most expensive thing you can buy is other people's approval. Because approval has no finish line. You buy one thing, then something newer appears. A better phone, a nicer car, a bigger house, a better vacation, a more expensive wardrobe. There is always someone with more. If your happiness depends on appearing successful, you will always need another purchase. But if your satisfaction comes from making progress, you can finally step off the treadmill. What to do instead? So what should you do? Start with your financial foundation. Build an emergency fund. Pay attention to high-interest debt. Contribute toward retirement. Invest consistently according to your goals and risk tolerance. Keep your fixed expenses reasonable. Avoid lifestyle inflation. And most importantly, stop using consumption as proof of success. If you get a raise, don't immediately ask, "What can I buy?" Ask, "What can this money build?" Can it buy you 6 months of financial security? Can it eliminate debt? Can it increase your investments? Can it help you become less dependent on your next paycheck? Those are much more powerful purchases. The big reframe. Here's the mindset shift I want you to remember. There are 2 ways to become financially impressive. The first is to look successful. The second is to become financially secure. The first requires an audience. The second doesn't. The first can make you feel rich today. The second can make you financially free tomorrow. And sometimes the smartest thing you can do is choose the second. Drive the old car. Wear the affordable clothes. Live in the modest apartment. Cook your meals. Use the old phone. Skip the expensive vacation. Not because you can't do better, but because you're building something bigger. Remember Marcus and Daniel? The 2 people earning the same $80,000 salary. Marcus looked successful. Daniel looked ordinary. But when the emergency came, their financial realities were completely different. Marcus needed a loan. Daniel had cash. Marcus worried about the next paycheck. Daniel had months of runway. Marcus had an expensive lifestyle. Daniel had financial options. And that is the lesson. The goal isn't to convince everyone that you're doing well. The goal is to create a financial position where you don't have to worry about convincing anyone. Because one day, you may realize that the person you were trying so hard to impress was never paying attention in the first place. So if you've been trying to look rich, I want you to try something different. For the next year, try looking ordinary. Don't upgrade just because your income increased. Don't buy something because everyone else has it. Don't finance a lifestyle you can't comfortably afford. Don't spend money just to prove you've made it. Instead, build your emergency fund, pay down expensive debt, invest, save, learn, increase your income, and let your financial position become stronger than your appearance. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Looking rich can make people think you're wealthy, but looking ordinary while quietly building assets can actually make you wealthy. So the next time someone wonders why you're still driving that old car, smile. The next time someone asks why you haven't upgraded your phone, don't feel embarrassed. And the next time someone thinks you're not doing well because you don't spend like them, let them think it, because they don't need to know what your bank account is doing. They don't need to know what you're investing. They don't need to know how much you've saved. They don't need to know how close you are to financial freedom. Your money doesn't need an audience. It needs a job. And if you can master that, you may discover that the smartest person in the room isn't always the one who looks rich. Sometimes, it's the one who doesn't need to look rich at all. If this video changed the way you think about money, subscribe to EgoMoney for more practical lessons on building wealth, saving money, investing, and creating financial freedom. And remember, don't spend your future trying to impress people with your present. Build quietly, build patiently, and let your money speak when you no longer need it to.